The bathroom door swung open, and my heart stopped. Steam curled around me, the shower's hot water pounding my back. But all I could see was Eli's wide-eyed stare, frozen in the doorway. In that split second, I wasn't just naked, I was exposed. Every secret I'd buried for years lay bare in his gaze. I'd known Eli since we were kids, tearing through the fields of our small Oregon town, scraping knees and sharing dreams under starlit skies. He was my best friend, the one constant in a life that felt like it was always teetering on the edge of chaos. But lately, something had shifted his lingering looks, the way his laugh caught in his throat when I got too close. And now, here he was, standing in my bathroom, seeing me in a way I'd never meant for him to see. "Jude, Tu didn't know you were," Eli stammered, his voice barely a whisper. His blonde curls clung to his forehead, damp from the evening rain. He didn't move, didn't turn away. Instead, his eyes flickered with something I couldn't name: fear. Maybe. Or something heavier. Something that made my chest ache. I fumbled for the towel, my hands shaking as I wrapped it around my waist. "Get out, Eli," I said, my voice sharper than I meant. But he didn't leave. He took a step closer, his boots squeaking on the tile, and the air between us felt like it could ignite. "I'm sorry," he said, but his tone wasn't apologetic. It was raw, like he was unraveling. I needed to see you. To talk. I can't keep pretending anymore." Pretending. That word hit me like a punch. For years, I'd been pretending, hiding who I was, shoving down the feelings that surged every time Eli smiled at me, every time his hand brushed mine. Growing up in a town where different was a dirty word, I'd learned to keep my head down, to blend in. My parents, devout and unyielding, had made it clear love was for a man and a woman. No exceptions. But Eli, he was the exception to everything. Pretending what? I asked, my voice barely steady. The shower was still running, the steam thickening, but the world had narrowed to just us. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "That I don't feel this. That I don't want you." His words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous, like they could shatter us both. I didn't know what to say. My heart was racing, torn between fear and a reckless hope I'd never dared to name. Eli was my best friend, me straight best friend. Or so I'd thought. We'd spent summers fishing at the lake, winters sneaking beers in his dad's garage, always dancing around the edges of something neither of us would admit. But now, with him standing there, his green eyes locked on mine, I felt the ground shift beneath me. "Eli, you don't know what you're saying," I managed, stepping back until the cold shower wall pressed against my spine. We can't." "Why not?" His voice cracked, and he took another step, closing the distance. "Jude, I've been scared my whole life. Scared of what people would think, what my family would say. But I'm done being scared. I saw you, and I couldn't walk away. Not this time." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But this was Willow Creek, Oregon, where whispers traveled faster than truth, and love like ours was a sin you didn't come back from. My parents' voices echoed in my head, sermons about hellfire, about right and wrong. And yet, here was Eli, standing in front of me, offering something I'd only dreamed of. "Eli, if we do this," I trailed off, my throat tight. "It changes everything." He nodded, his jaw set. "I know. But maybe everything needs to change." The bathroom felt too small. The air too heavy. I turned off the shower. The silence deafening. We stood there, inches apart, the weight of his confession pressing against my chest. I could still feel the heat of the water on my skin, but it was nothing compared to the fire in his eyes. "Meet me at the clearing," he said suddenly, his voice low. "Tonight. The one by the river. We need to talk, really talk." I nodded, unable to speak. He turned and left, the door clicking shut behind him. I sank to the floor, the towel still clutched around me, my mind a storm of fear and longing. The clearing was our place where we'd shared secrets as kids, where I'd first realized I loved him. And now, it was where our friendship would either survive or break apart forever. That night, I pulled on my jacket and slipped out of the house, the cool September air biting at my skin. The streets of Willow Creek were quiet, the kind of quiet that felt like it was holding its breath. I walked toward the river, my heart pounding with every step. What did Eli want? Was this real? Or was I walking into something that would ruin us? The clearing came into view, bathed in moonlight. Eli was already there, leaning against an old oak tree, his silhouette sharp against the silver glow. He looked up as I approached, and for the first time, I saw him not just as my best friend, but as someone who might love me back. "Jude," he said, his voice soft but steady. I meant what I said. I'm not running from this anymore. I stopped a few feet away, my hands shoved deep in my pockets. "Eli, this town, our families, they'll never accept it. You know that." "I don't care about them," he said, stepping closer. "I care about you. I've always cared about you." His words broke something in me, a dam I'd built to hold back years of want. I wanted to close the distance, to pull him into me, but fear still clawed at my chest. "What happens if we do this?" I asked. "What happens when everyone finds out?" He reached out, his hand grazing my arm. "Then we face it together." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made my knees weak. Together. I'd never let myself imagine what that could mean, not really. But standing there, with the river rushing nearby and Eli's hand warm against my skin, I felt the first stirrings of courage. "Okay," I whispered. "Together." The moonlight carved shadows across Eli's face, making his eyes seem deeper, more resolute. I stood frozen, his hand still on my arm, the word "together" echoing in my mind like a promise I wasn't sure we could keep. The river's gentle rush filled the silence. But inside, my thoughts roared hope and terror crashing against each other. "Eli, you're sure about this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't just a moment, right? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back." He didn't hesitate. "I've never been more sure of anything, Jude." His hand slid down to mine, his fingers interlocking with a quiet confidence that made my chest tighten. "I've spent years trying to figure out why I felt so empty, why no one else ever felt right. It's because it was always you." His words hit like a wave, pulling me under. I'd loved Eli for so long. I'd forgotten what it felt like to not ache for him. But to hear him say it, to see the truth in his eyes, it was too much. Too real. I pulled my hand away, not because I didn't want him, but because I was scared of how much I did. "Jude, what's wrong?" His voice was soft, but there was an edge of worry in it. I paced a few steps, the damp grass sticking to my boots. "This town, Eli, you know how it is. People talk. They judge. My parents they'd disown me. Your dad, He's not exactly the accepting type either. I turned to face him. My hands clenched. What if we do this? And it destroys everything. Eli's jaw tightened. But he didn't look away. Maybe it will. Maybe we'll lose people. But what's the alternative? Living a lie. Pretending we're just friends when I can't stop thinking about you. He stepped closer, his breath visible in the cool night air. I'd rather face the fallout than spend another day without you. I wanted to argue, to list every reason this was a bad idea. But his words stripped me bare. I'd spent so long hiding, convincing myself I could survive on scraps of friendship, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to want more, to deserve more. Okay, I said finally, my voice shaking. But we need to be smart about this. No one can know. Not yet. He nodded, a flicker of relief crossing his face. We'll figure it out. Together. That word again. It was a lifeline, pulling me toward him. I took a step, then another, until we were close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body. Hesitant, I reached out, my fingers brushing his jaw. His eyes fluttered closed, and for a moment, we just stood there, the world fading away. Then he leaned in, and our lips met, tentative at first, then desperate, like we'd both been starving for this. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and I let myself fall into it, the fear melting under the heat of his touch. It was everything I'd imagined and more, raw, real, and terrifyingly perfect. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, I rested my forehead against his. This is crazy, I whispered, a laugh bubbling up despite myself. Yeah, he said, grinning. But it's our kind of crazy. We stayed in the clearing for hours, talking, kissing, planning. We agreed to keep it secret for now, to protect ourselves until we could figure out what came next. But secrets in Willow Creek had a way of slipping out. And by morning, I felt the weight of that truth settle in my bones. The next day at school, everything felt different. The halls of Willow Creek High were the same, lockers slamming, kids laughing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everyone could see it on me, like I was wearing my heart on my sleeve. Eli caught my eye across the cafeteria, his smile subtle but enough to make my pulse race. We played it cool, sticking to our usual routine. But every glance felt charged, every brush of his shoulder electric. That afternoon, we met at the town library, a quiet corner where no one would bother us. We sat at a table in the back, pretending to study, but our hands kept finding each other under the table, fingers intertwining like they had a mind of their own. We need a plan, I said, keeping my voice low. If we're going to do this, we need to think about what happens when people find out. Eli leaned back, his expression serious. I've been thinking about that. My dad, he's not going to take it well. He's got this image of him, a football star, perfect son. If he finds out, it's going to be bad. I nodded, my stomach twisting. Eli's dad was a former Marine, all sharp edges and expectations. My parents weren't much better. Me mom's prayers and my dad's lectures had been a constant refrain growing up. Mine either, I said. But maybe we could leave. After graduation. Go somewhere bigger. Somewhere we can be ourselves. His eyes lit up. Like Portland. Or Seattle. Somewhere no one knows us. Exactly. The idea felt like a lifeline, a way to escape the suffocating weight of Willow Creek. We just have to make it through the next few months. But trouble came sooner than we expected. That evening, as I walked home, I noticed a truck idling across the street. Tommy Grayson, one of Eli's football teammates, staring at me with a look that made my skin crawl. Tommy was the kind of guy who thrived on gossip, the kind who'd turn a whisper into a wildfire. Had he seen something? Heard something? When I got home, my phone buzzed with a text from Eli. Tommy's asking questions. Be careful. My heart sank. We'd barely started, and already the walls were closing in. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if we'd been naive to think we could keep this secret. Willow Creek wasn't just a tone, it was a trap, and we were caught in it. The next morning, the air in Willow Creek felt heavier, like the town itself was watching us. I met Eli at our usual spot by the river before school, the clearing now a sacred space for us. He looked tired, his green eyes shadowed, but when he saw me, he smiled a small, defiant thing that made my heart ache. Tommy's been talking, he said, kicking at a rock. He saw us leaving the library together yesterday. Asked me why we were acting so weird. My stomach dropped. What did you tell him? That we were just studying. Eli shrugged, but his jaw was tight. He didn't buy it. Kept pushing, saying he saw us holding hands. I cursed under my breath. We'd been carefuler, so I thought. But in a town this small, even a glance could spark rumors. What do we do? I asked, my voice low. Eli ran a hand through his curls. Pacing. We stick to the plan. Keep it quiet. Act normal. Tommy's got no proof. He's just fishing. But I wasn't so sure. Tommy Grayson wasn't the type to let things go. He'd been Eli's shadow on the football team, always vying for attention. And if he sensed weakness, he'd pounce. I could already imagine the whispers spreading through the locker room, the church, the diner, places where secrets went to die. At school, I felt eyes on me everywhere. In English class, I caught Tommy staring from across the room, his smirk sharp enough to cut. When the bell rang, he brushed past me in the hall, muttering, "Better watch yourself, Jude." The words were casual, but they carried a threat that made my blood run cold. Eli and I skipped lunch, hiding out in the old music room, a dusty corner of the school no one used anymore. We sat on the floor, our backs against the wall, the silence between us heavy but comforting. "I hate this," I said finally, my voice cracking. "Hiding. Feeling like we're doing something wrong." Eli reached for my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "We're not wrong, Jude. They are. This town. These people theory the ones who don't get it." I wanted to believe him, but fear was a hard habit to break. What if Tommy tells someone? What if it gets back to our parents? Eli's grip tightened. "Then we deal with it. I'm not losing you over some small-minded jerk." His words gave me courage, but they couldn't erase the dread pooling in my chest. That night, I went home to a tense dinner with my parents. My mom's eyes kept flickering to me, like she could sense something was off. My dad, as usual, was buried in his Bible, muttering about the sermon he was preparing for Sunday. I barely touched my food, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. Later, in my room, I got a call from Eli. "Meet me at the clearing," he said, his voice urgent. "Now." I slipped out, my heart pounding as I made my way to the river. Eli was already there, pacing, his face pale under the moonlight. "Tommy followed me after practice," he said before I could speak. "He saw us last night. In the clearing." My breath caught. What does he know? Enough. Eli's voice was grim. He didn't say it outright, but he's dropping hints. Said he's going to talk to the team unless I come clean. Anger flared in me, hot and sharp. He's blackmailing you. Eli nodded, his hands clenched. I told him to back off, but he's not scared of me. He knows he's got power. I felt sick. Tommy could ruin user reputations, our families, our future. But worse than that was the thought of losing Eli, of this fragile, beautiful thing we'd just found being torn apart before it could grow. We could confront him, I said, though the idea terrified me. Call his bluff. Eli shook his head. That'll just make it worse. He wants attention. If we give him a fight, he'll make sure everyone hears about it. Then what? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. We can't just wait for him to destroy us. Eli stopped pacing and looked at me, his eyes fierce. We leave. Sooner than we planned. We save up. We graduate. And we get the hell out of here. The idea was reckless, but it sparked something in May, a flicker of hope. How? We don't have money. We don't have anywhere to go. We'll figure it out, he said, stepping closer. We've got each other. That's enough. His confidence was infectious, and for a moment, I let myself believe it. We sat by the river, planning in whispers, dreaming of a life where we didn't have to hide. Portland, Seattle, maybe even San Francisco, places where we could walk hand in hand without fear. But even as we talked, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The next day, things escalated. At school, Tommy cornered me in the parking lot, his buddies flanking him like a pack of wolves. Heard you and Eli are real close these days, he sneered, his voice loud enough for others to hear. Kids nearby turned, their eyes curious, and I felt the world closing in. Back off, Tommy, I said, my voice steady despite the panic clawing at me. He laughed, stepping closer. Or what? You gonna cry to your boyfriend? The word hit like a slap, and I froze, my heart pounding. Before I could respond, Eli appeared, shoving his way between us. Leave him alone, he growled, his fists clenched. Tommy's smirk widened. Oh, this is gonna be fun. The parking lot felt like a battlefield, the air thick with tension as Eli faced off with Tommy. Kids lingered nearby, their phones already out, ready to capture whatever came next. My pulse hammered in my ears, every instinct screaming to run. But Eli's presence anchored me. Say it again. Tommy, Eli said, his voice low and dangerous. Go on. Call him that one more time. Tommy's grin didn't falter, but I saw a flicker of unease in his eyes. He wasn't used to Eli pushing back, not like this. What's the matter, Eli? He taunted, stepping closer. You and your friend got something to hide. Eli's fists tightened, and for a moment, I thought he might swing. But then he took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing just enough to keep control. You're pathetic, Tommy. You think starting rumors makes you tough. It just makes you a coward. The crowd murmured, some kids snickering, others shifting uncomfortably. Tommy's face reddened, his bravado cracking. You're the one who's gonna regret this. He spat, then turned and walked away, his buddies trailing behind. Eli grabbed my arm, pulling me toward his truck. Come on, he muttered. We need to get out of here. We drove to the clearing, the silence between us heavy. I kept replaying Tommy's words. The way the crowd had watched. The way it felt like the whole town was closing in. "This is bad," I said finally, my voice shaking. "If he talks, it's over. Everyone will know." Eli parked and turned to me, his eyes fierce. "Let them know. I'm done hiding. Jude. I'm done letting people like Tommy control us." His words stirred something in me, hope. Maybe. Or defiance. But fear was still there, clawing at the edges. "You say that now? But what about your dad? My parents? They'll make our lives hell." He reached for my hand, his grip steady. "Then we fight. We don't let them win." I wanted to believe him, but the weight of Willow Creek felt crushing. That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with images of angry parents, judgmental stares, and Eli's face when his dad inevitably found out. By morning, the rumors had spread. Whispers followed me through the school halls, eyes lingering too long. In the cafeteria, a group of girls fell silent when I walked by, their giggles cutting like knives. Eli found me at lunch, his face grim. "It's worse than we thought," he said, pulling me into an empty classroom. "Tommy told the whole football team. They're saying stuff about us." My heart sank. "What kind of stuff?" He hesitated, then sighed. "That we're together. That we've been sneaking around. Some of it's true, but they're twisting it, making it ugly." I leaned against the wall, my head spinning. "What do we do?" Eli's jaw tightened. "We stick together. We don't let them see us break." But breaking felt inevitable. That afternoon, my mom was waiting for me when I got home, her face pale and her eyes sharp. "Jude, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling with something I couldn't place: anger, fear, or both. I followed her to the kitchen, my stomach in knots. She sat at the table, her hands clasped tightly. "I heard something today. From Mrs. Grayson. About you and Eli." My blood ran cold. "Tommy's mom. Of course. What did she say?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She said, "People are talking. Saying you two are more than friends." Her eyes searched mine, pleading for me to deny it. "Tell me it's not true, Jude. Tell me it's just gossip." I wanted to lie. I'd lied for years, burying my truth to keep the peace. But looking at her, I felt the weight of every secret I'd carried. And I was tired. "It's true," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. "I love him." Her face crumpled, tears welling up. "Jude. No. You can't. It's not right. It's not what God wants." Her words stung, but I stood my ground. "I'm not asking for your permission, Mom. This is who I am." She stood, her chair scraping the floor. "We'll talk to Pastor John. We'll fix this. You're confused. That's all." I shook my head, my throat tight. "I'm not confused. I'm done pretending." That night, I packed a bag and slipped out, heading to Eli's. His house was dark, but he was waiting in the driveway, his own bag slung over his shoulder. "My dad heard," he said, his voice hollow. "He called me an embarrassment. Said I'm not his son anymore." I reached for him, pulling him into a hug. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my heart breaking for him. He clung to me, his breath shaky. "We're getting out of here, Jude. Tonight." We drove to a motel just outside town, pooling our cash to pay for a room. It was small and dingy, but it was our temporary refuge. We lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, our hands intertwined. Where do we go from here? I asked, my voice soft. Anywhere, Eli said, turning to face me. As long as it's with you. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. We were scared, broke, and running, but we were together. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The motel room smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap air freshener. But with Eli beside me, it felt like a sanctuary. We lay there, our hands still clasped, the weight of our decision settling over us like a heavy fog. Outside, the world was unraveling. But in that small, dim room, we were free, at least for now. We can't stay here long, I said, staring at the cracked ceiling. We've got, what? A couple $100 between us. That won't last. Eli nodded, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. I've got a cousin in Portland. Jake. He's different from the rest of my family. I think he'd help us. I turned to look at him, his face half lit by the flickering neon sign outside. You sure? What if he's like your dad? He's not, Eli said firmly. He left Willow Creek years ago. Said he couldn't stand the small-town bullshit. If anyone gets it, it's him. The idea of Portland, a city big enough to disappear in, felt like a lifeline. But getting there was another story. No car, no jobs, and two families who'd probably never speak to us again. Still, Eli's determination was infectious, and I clung to it like a drowning man to a raft. We spent the next day planning, pooling our money and mapping out bus routes. Eli called Jake, keeping his voice low as he explained our situation. I watched him, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and fear. He was risking everything for this for us. Jake's in, Eli said, hanging up. He's got a spare room. Says we can crash with him until we get on our feet. Relief flooded me, but it was tinged with worry. What about school? Graduation. We're so close. Eli's face softened. We'll figure it out. Jude. Maybe we can finish online or something. Right now, we just need to get out. That night, we bought 2 bus tickets to Portland, the last of our cash draining away. As we boarded the bus, I glanced back at the neon lights of the motel, the only home we'd had for the past 24 hours. Willow Creek was behind us, but its shadow loomed large. The bus ride was long, the seats uncomfortable, but Eli's hand in mine made it bearable. We talked in whispers, dreaming of a future where we didn't have to hide. He wanted to study art, something his dad had always mocked. I wanted to write, to tell stories that mattered. For the first time, those dreams felt possible. Portland was a shock to the system. Tall buildings, crowded streets, people who didn't care who we were or who we loved. Jake met us at the station, a lanky guy with a shaved head and a warm smile. You two look like you've been through hell, he said, pulling us into a hug. You have no idea, Eli muttered, but he was smiling. Jake's apartment was small but cozy, a world away from the suffocating walls of Willow Creek. He gave us his spare room, a tiny space with a mattress on the floor, but it was ours. That night, as we lay together, I felt a weight lift, not completely, but enough to breathe. The next few weeks were a blur. We found part-time jobs at a coffee shop, Eli at a bookstore. The work was grueling, but it gave us purpose, a way to build something new. Jake was a godsend, teaching us how to navigate the city, introducing us to his friends, people who didn't blink at two guys holding hands. But Willow Creek wasn't done with us. One evening, as I was wiping down tables at the coffee shop, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Come home, Jude. We can fix this. Please." I stared at the screen, my heart twisting. I missed the way she used to sing while cooking, the way she'd hug me after a bad day. But I couldn't go back. Not to a place that wanted to change me. Eli noticed my mood when I got home. "What's wrong?" he asked, pulling me onto the couch. I showed him the text. He read it, his face darkening. "They don't get to do this," he said. "They don't get to guilt you into being someone you're not." "I know," I said, but my voice was shaky. "It just hurts." He pulled me close, his arms strong around me. "It's gonna hurt for a while, but we're building something better here. Something real." He was right, but the pain lingered. Over the next few days, more messages came from my mom, my dad, even Pastor John, all pleading for me to come to my senses. I stopped responding, but each one felt like a knife. Then came the call that changed everything. It was Eli's cousin, Jake, his voice tense. "Eli, your dad's in town. He's looking for you." The air in Jake's apartment felt suffocating as Eli hung up the phone, his face pale. "He's here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My dad. He tracked us down." I froze, my coffee mug halfway to my lips. "How? How did he find us?" Eli shook his head, running a hand through his curls. "I don't know. Maybe he called Jake's parents. Or, hell, maybe Tommy tipped him off. Doesn't matter. He's here, and he's pissed." Jake stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. "He showed up at my friend's bar, asking questions. Didn't say much, but he's got that look like he's ready to drag you back to Willow Creek." My stomach churned. Eli's dad wasn't just strict, he was intimidating. A man who commanded respect and didn't take kindly to defiance. The thought of him in Portland, hunting us down, made my skin crawl. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice trembling. Eli looked at me, his eyes fierce despite the fear. "We don't run. Not this time. If he wants to talk, we'll face him." I wanted to argue, to beg him to hide, but the set of his jaw told me he'd made up his mind. And deep down, I knew he was right. We couldn't keep running forever. The next day, we met Eli's dad at a diner downtown, a neutral ground Jake suggested. The place was crowded, the clatter of dishes and chatter of customers a strange backdrop to the tension. Mr. Carter sat in a booth, his broad shoulders hunched, his face a mask of barely contained anger. "Eli," he said as we slid into the booth, his voice cold. "Jude." He barely looked at me, his eyes fixed on his son. "Dad," Eli said, his tone steady but guarded. "What do you want?" "Mr." Carter leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly. "I want my son back. The one who had a future, who didn't throw it all away for this." His gaze flicked to me, sharp and accusing. I felt my face burn, but Eli didn't flinch. "This is who I am, Dad. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm finally living." "Mr." Carter's jaw tightened. "You're confused. Both of you. This isn't right. And you know it. Come home, Eli. We'll get you help." Eli laughed. A bitter sound. Help. You mean conversion therapy? Or more of Pastor John's sermons? I'm not broken, Dad. I'm in love. The words hung in the air, raw and unapologetic. I reached for Eli's hand under the table, my heart pounding. Mister. Carter's face darkened, his voice dropping to a growl. You're throwing away your family, your faith, everything we raised you to be. Maybe you raised me wrong. Eli shot back. Maybe I'm done living for you. Mister. Carter stood, his chair scraping the floor. You're no son of mine, he said, then walked out, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. I squeezed Eli's hand, my throat tight. You okay? He nodded, but his eyes were wet. Yeah. I knew he'd react like that. Still hurts, though. We left the diner, the weight of the confrontation lingering. Back at Jake's, we sat on the roof, the city sprawling below us, lights twinkling like stars. Eli leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. I'm sorry, I said softly. I feel like this is my fault. He lifted his head, his eyes fierce. Don't you dare. This is our choice, Jude. Ours. And I'd choose you 1,000 times over. His words warmed me, but the fear was still there. We were free, but at what cost? Our families, our past, everything we'd known was slipping away. Yet, as I looked at Eli, I knew I'd choose him too, no matter what. The next few weeks were a balancing act. We worked, saved money, and tried to build a life in Portland. Jake's friends became our friends, a small circle of people who accepted us without question. But the shadow of Willow Creek followed us. My parents kept calling, their messages a mix of pleas and accusations. Eli's mom reached out once, her voice soft and tearful, but she didn't push him to come home. One night, as we walked through the city, hand in hand, Eli stopped under a streetlight. I want to tell people, he said suddenly. Not hide anymore. Start a new chapter. I hesitated, the old fear creeping in. What if it follows us? What if people here judge us too? He smiled, pulling me close. Then we keep going. We've got each other. That's enough. His courage was contagious, and I nodded. Okay. Let's do it. We started small, telling Jake's friends first. They cheered, hugged us, made it feel normal. Emboldened, we posted a photo on Linnaeus at the riverfront, arms around each other, smiling. The caption was simple, finally free. The response was mixed. Some friends from Willow Creek unfollowed us, their silence louder than words. But others, people we hadn't expected, reached out with support. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The photo we posted felt like a declaration, a line drawn in the sand. For every message of support, there was a sting of silence from someone back in Willow Creek, classmates, cousins, people we'd once called friends. But Eli's hand in mine, steady and warm, reminded me why we'd done it. We were done hiding. Life in Portland began to take shape. My job at the coffee shop became more than just a paycheck. I started to love the rhythm of it. The smell of fresh grounds, the chatter of customers who didn't know my past. Eli thrived at the bookstore, his passion for art spilling into conversations with coworkers about graphic novels and local galleries. We were building something, piece by piece, and it felt like home. But the past wasn't done with us. One rainy afternoon, as I was steaming milk for a latte, My phone buzzed with a voicemail from my dad. His voice was low, measured, the way it got when he was trying not to yell. Jude, this has gone far enough. You're breaking your mother's heart. Come home. Son. We'll forgive you. Forgive me. The words burned. I didn't need forgiveness, I needed acceptance. I deleted the message, my hands shaking, and went back to work. But the weight of it lingered. That night, I told Eli. We were in our tiny room, curled up on the mattress, the rain pattering against the window. They still think I'm the one who's wrong, I said, my voice thick, like I'm the one who needs to change. Eli pulled me closer, his lips brushing my forehead. They're wrong, Jude. They don't see you like I do. You're perfect. I laughed. A broken sound. I'm a mess. You're my mess, he said, smiling. And I wouldn't trade you for anything. His words eased the ache, but not completely. The next day, I called my mom, hoping for anything that felt like progress. She answered on the first ring, her voice soft but guarded. Jude. Mom, I said, my throat tight. I'm not coming back. But I want you to know I'm happy. Really happy. There was a long pause. I don't understand, she said finally. We raised you to know right from wrong. I know what's right for me, I said. And it's Eli. She didn't respond, and the silence hurt more than words. I hung up, my chest heavy, but I felt a strange relief. I'd said my truth, even if she wasn't ready to hear it. Eli's dad was another story. He'd gone quiet after the diner, but Jake warned us he'd been asking around, trying to track our movements. One evening, as we walked home from work, we saw him, Mr. Carter, leaning against his truck outside Jake's apartment, his face unreadable. Eli, he said, stepping forward. We need to talk. Alone. Eli stiffened but didn't back down. Anything you say to me, you say to Jude too. Mr. Carter's eyes flicked to me, cold and hard. This is family business. Jude's my family, Eli said, his voice unwavering. Say what you came to say. Mr. Carter's jaw worked, like he was chewing on words he didn't want to spit out. I didn't raise you to be like this, he said finally. You're throwing away everything, your future. Your name for what? A phase. It's not a phase, Eli said, stepping closer. It's who I am. And if you can't accept that, then you're the one throwing me away. Mr. Carter flinched, just for a second, and I saw something crack in his expression. Grief. Maybe. Or regret. But he didn't soften. You're making a mistake, he said, then turned and got in his truck, driving off without another word. Eli watched him go. His shoulders slumped. I reached for him, pulling him into a hug. You did good, I whispered. You stood your ground. He nodded against my shoulder, his breath shaky. It's not over, is it? No, I admitted. But we're stronger than they are. The next few weeks were a test. We kept building our life-saving money, planning for school, dreaming of a future where Willow Creek was just a memory. But the calls and messages kept coming, each one a reminder of what we'd left behind. My parents sent letters, long and pleading, filled with Bible verses and guilt. Eli's mom called once, her voice soft but distant, saying she prayed for him every night. We leaned on each other, and on Jake, whose support never wavered. His friends threw us a small party one night, a celebration of our official coming out. There was music, laughter, and a cake with congrats. Lovebirds, written in messy icing. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But as we danced in Jake's tiny living room, Eli's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling. "It's my mom," he said. "She says my dad's coming back. And he's not alone." The news hit like a storm cloud, darkening the joy of the night. Eli's mom didn't say who his dad was bringing, but the implication was clear: trouble was coming. And it wasn't just a conversation this time. We left the party early, the laughter fading as we walked back to Jake's apartment, our hands tightly clasped. "What do you think he's planning?" I asked, my voice low as we climbed the stairs. Eli shook his head, his jaw tight. "I don't know. But my dad doesn't do things halfway. If he's coming back, he's got a plan." Jake was waiting for us, his face grim. "I called my mom," he said. "She says your dad's been talking to Pastor John. They're calling it an intervention." My heart sank. An intervention. The word conjured images of church basements, tearful pleas, and people trying to fix us. I looked at Eli, expecting fear, but his eyes were blazing with defiance. "They can try," he said, "but they're not changing us." We spent the night preparing, talking through every possibility. Jake offered to stay, to stand with us, but Eli insisted he keep his distance. "This is our fight," he said. "We need to face it ourselves." The next morning, they arrived: Eli's dad, Pastor John, and, to my shock, my mom. They stood in Jake's living room, their faces a mix of determination and pity. My mom's eyes were red, like she'd been crying, but she held herself tall, clutching a Bible. Pastor John, with his calm, practiced smile, spoke first. "Boys, we're here because we love you. We want to help you find your way back." "Back to what?" Eli asked, his voice sharp. "To lying. To hating ourselves." Pastor John's smile didn't waver. "To God's path. You're lost. But it's not too late." I felt my mom's gaze on me, heavy with expectation. "Jude," she said softly, "please. You're my son. I can't lose you to this." Her words cut deep, but I stood my ground. "You're not losing me, Mom. You're pushing me away. I'm happy with Eli. Why can't you see that?" She shook her head, tears spilling over. "It's not right. It's not what we taught you." Eli stepped forward, his hand finding mine. "You taught us to be honest, to be kind. That's what we're doing. We're not the ones who need fixing." "Mr." Carter's face hardened. "Enough. Eli, you're coming home. You're not throwing your life away for this sin." Eli laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "Sin. The only sin here is you trying to tear us apart. I'm not going anywhere." The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to choke on. Pastor John opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "We're done here," I said, my voice steady despite the fear. "You can pray for us, judge us, whatever you want. But we're not changing. We love each other, and we're building a life together. You can be part of it, or you can leave." My mom gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "Mr." Carter's face twisted with rage, but he didn't speak. Pastor John tried to mediate, his voice soothing. But Eli and I stood firm, our hands locked together. Finally, my mom spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I don't understand, but I don't want to lose you, Jude. It wasn't acceptance. Not fully. But it was a crack in the wall-off flicker of hope. Mr. Carter stormed out, Pastor John following. But my mom lingered, her eyes searching mine. Can I call you? She asked. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. She left, and the apartment felt empty, but not hopeless. Eli turned to me, his eyes soft. You okay? Yeah, I said, managing a smile. We did it. He pulled me into a hug, his breath warm against my neck. We're gonna be okay, Jude. Better than okay. The days that followed were quieter. My mom called once, her voice tentative but kind. Eli's dad didn't reach out, but his mom sent a short text. I'm trying to understand. It wasn't much, but it was something. We kept building our life, working, saving, dreaming. We enrolled in online classes, determined to finish high school. Eli started sketching again, his art a window into his heart. I wrote, pouring our story into pages, hoping one day it might help someone else. One evening, as we walked along the Portland waterfront, Eli stopped and pulled me close. I love you, he said, his voice steady and sure. No matter what. I love you too, I said, and for the first time, I believed we could make it. Our friendship had been tested, broken, and rebuilt into something stronger, something real. Willow Creek was a shadow, but it no longer defined us. We'd chosen each other, and in that choice, we'd found freedom. The road ahead wasn't easy, but it was ours, and we'd walk it together.